The news has been publicised today that Meghan Markle suffered a miscarriage in July of this year. She actually wrote an article herself which was made public by the New York Times today. There has been a lot of talk about this, a lot of speculation as to whether this is all done for publicity and whether it actually even happened. We are going to get into all the details here and I am going to give you my personal opinion on the events. Just in case you haven't read the article for yourself, I will give you a brief rundown of the facts. I've got my phone here just to look at. Meghan Markle suffered a miscarriage in July. She wrote in her article, after changing the diaper or nappy of her son Archie, she felt a sharp cramp and dropped to the floor. She wrote, "I knew as I clutched my firstborn child that I was losing my second." There has been a lot of talk about Meghan Markle's miscarriage over the course of just today, in the first 24 hours after the article has been published, with a lot of people saying that she has talked about this just for clout, for publicity, and that she has no right to grieve because she already has a child of her own. Well, this is my opinion on the issue, not those things that I just said, but what I'm about to say. As many of you know, if you follow my channel already, I have suffered 4 consecutive miscarriages myself, consecutive miscarriages meaning one after the other. I have several videos on my channel about those miscarriages and how we actually eventually, thankfully, went on to have a successful pregnancy. Now, we already had a child when we suffered with our first miscarriage and all the subsequent miscarriages, so in a very similar position to that of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. One of the comments that really got to me that I read today was that she has no right to grieve because she already has a child. That's something that really struck me deeply. Just because you already have a child absolutely doesn't mean that you don't deserve to grieve the loss of another. Every child is important. Every child is special. We say this, we shout this from the rooftops all the time. So why is it any less important when the child is yet to be born? Yes, of course, it's incredibly sad and painful if you suffer a miscarriage and you don't have any living children. And I cannot imagine how difficult that must be. Obviously, we haven't been through that, and my heart does go out to anybody that's in that position. But that doesn't mean that it's okay to say that just because they have a healthy son that they should not be allowed to grieve for their unborn child. There are a lot of people saying that this article has been published for clout, to give the Duke and Duchess of Sussex some publicity. As we all know, they left the royal family. I think it was last year in 2019 it was made official, and now they are out on their own in the world and they've started a television production company. They've signed a big deal with Netflix and they're doing lots of other humanitarian projects. And of course, there are a lot of people that think that they might be doing this to get publicity and just to kind of get their names out there and get people talking. I'm sorry, but if you are the type of person that would use the death of a child for publicity, then you, in my opinion, are incredibly evil. I do not believe that that is what they are doing at all. I have spoken very publicly about my miscarriages and my loss, and I know from my own point of view that speaking about these things not only is cathartic and helpful for you, but the fact that you speak about them publicly, not only to family and friends and your close circle, is really important because, unfortunately, miscarriage is still very much taboo. One person on Instagram wrote, "I thought she wanted to keep things private and personal. I'm confused. Miscarriage isn't taboo anymore and she didn't need to speak out." Well, unfortunately, person on Instagram, miscarriage is very much still a taboo subject. People do not feel comfortable talking about miscarriage. I have experienced this myself. When I went through my first miscarriage, I felt like I needed to hide something. I didn't tell any friends and family because we thought that that was almost what you were supposed to do. Have you ever wondered why people tell you that you're not supposed to tell people that you're pregnant until you reach week 12 of pregnancy? It's because before week 12 there is a high chance of losing that baby. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about it. And in actual fact, I really think that from the moment that you fall pregnant, you should be allowed to tell whoever you like, because the fact is, if you lose that baby and you want to be able to talk to people about it, then you have every right. That is your own business. Let's look into some more of the comments that I have read talking about this topic. Now, there are lots of positive and kind kind comments as well, but I'm just going to dive into some of the more negative comments. Somebody said, I do not understand why I need to know this information. What is the purpose of sharing this information to the public? Well, as we just talked about, it's very important because the public need to know that miscarriages happen, that miscarriage is common, and that if you are going through a miscarriage, you are not alone and there is nothing that you did wrong. Somebody else said, what a pathetic, overdramatic piece of fiction. You will do anything for attention. Poor Ginger Harry, if only they had shrinks in the UK to deal with his mummy issues, he wouldn't have to revolt against Daddy and Granny with this gutter snipe. I don't even know how to respond to that politely or with any semblance of being polite. I cannot believe that there are people out there that think that this is a dramatic piece of fiction. Why would you make this up? Why on earth would you make this up? Somebody is suffering, they have gone through loss, they are grieving the death of a child, and you think it's appropriate to write something like this. Somebody else said, the world waits with bated breath to see how she next presents herself as a victim. Another delightful person saying that Meghan Markle is just doing this for publicity and to get people to feel sorry for her. This next comment really struck me and actually made me feel not only incredibly sad for Meghan Markle and for Harry, for I should say the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, shouldn't I? But for anybody that's reading these kinds of comments, at least it's not her fault. More likely the inbreeding of the British royalty caused the marriage. There is absolutely no reason, if you are going through a miscarriage, to think that it is your fault. There are so many reasons for miscarriages. I am not a medical expert. Some are genetic, yes, but to insinuate that inbreeding is the cause of the miscarriage and saying that somehow it's Meghan's fault for marrying into a family where supposedly, as this person says, there is inbreeding is just the most insensitive thing I think I've ever heard, and something that I am afraid that other people may read and feel like something they did wrong caused a miscarriage. When you are pregnant with a baby, you do everything you can to keep that baby safe, and believe you me, when you lose that baby, you rack your brains to think of what you possibly did to cause that pregnancy to fail. Was it that I took baths that were too hot? Was it that I lifted boxes that were too heavy? Was it that I ate the wrong foods or did the wrong things or lay in the wrong position? Believe me, I have thought it all. But the fact is, it's not anything that you did to cause that miscarriage. Another comment here says, of course you're going to announce your miscarriage the day Christina Perry shares she lost her daughter in the 3rd trimester. Stop trying to stay relevant. Now, I am incredibly sorry for the loss that Christina Perry is going through. Words cannot even describe the pain that she must be feeling, but we mustn't say that one person's loss is any more worthy of grief than another person's. We do not know the full personal circumstances behind things. Of course, losing a baby in any stage of pregnancy or after birth is incredibly traumatic and difficult, and I am not going to say what is worse because that is entirely your personal opinion. But I do not think that somebody should be using that to shame Meghan Markle for sharing her incredibly difficult loss and being so brave to share it with the world. There are a lot of media outlets saying brave in inverted commas and that she isn't actually very brave at all to share it, but it is brave because it is such a taboo subject. It's something that people don't talk about, and I know that when I first shared about my losses, I was really scared that people were going to almost judge me for having miscarriages. As Meghan says, losing a child does mean carrying an almost unbearable grief, something that you feel you can't share with the world, and we really, really need to open up this conversation and use this platform and use the door that's been opened to talk about this even more widely and shout it even more loudly. So I personally am very thankful for that. If you are suffering a miscarriage or you have ever suffered a miscarriage in the past, I would love to hear your opinion on this. Do you think that Meghan Markle is using this story for clout, for publicity, or do you think she is simply being a brave person sharing personal grief? Do leave it in the comments down below for me. Let's start a conversation about this. If you want to watch more of my videos on miscarriage, including my own personal stories, then I will link some of my videos here for you. I do have a whole playlist on miscarriage and pregnancy loss. Thank you ever so much for watching this video, everybody. My name is Sophie. Bye bye.